Hello, Boris Pravisham here. Sorry I haven't been uploading as much lately, but my internet has been really screwy. But in any case, time for another build. Ronan Mahoney commented suggesting that I build some sort of infantry delivery ship, like a paratrooper ship, except rather than parachutes, the troops would be delivered in pods. I have heard of others who have tried similar things, but like always, I have intentionally deprived myself of looking at other people's designs in the hope that, what I build is either original or I at least organically converge on the same ideas as someone else. This means that I will miss simple, easy stuff, because that's just what happens when you don't research and copy from a working design. But, that's what you people are for. If you think of ideas that I don't, then speak up in the comments and I'll attribute anything to you that you come up with if I use it. So, the point of this is to have a ship that has one or more of these pods filled with infantry that can be inserted onto a station or asteroid quickly and safely. I don't know if in practice this would actually be a good idea. Perhaps having pods raining down on a station will be easy pickings for turrets and players alike. Perhaps there are better and more functional ways of doing it, but frankly we won't know until we try, and to try, we have to build first. Even if it turns out to not be very functional, at least it'll be fun and in the spirit of the game. Now, I want to have different size ships with a universal pod size, or a couple of them, so that way if you want a fast, lightweight insertion vessel with only a few infantry, then you could have a ship specifically designed for that. I'm starting that over there. However, if you want a very large, heavy one that will have its own defences and is capable of delivering a lot of troops. At the moment, this one can deliver 8 people per pod, with space for 4 pods on the ship, so 32 people in total. Each pod is able to be released at separate times, so hopefully you can aim for different landing spots. I also want to be able to release the pods at speed. Especially for the lightweight version, I want to be able to fly in, jettison the pods, you can see them below down in there, and fly out, all without stopping. Ideally, you would get up to speed before reaching your target, and as you come in range, insert the pods onto the target station, all without your enemy knowing what hit them. This means the pod sort of needs to be able to control itself. It sort of needs to be a self-contained ship. Targeting accurately at speed will be difficult, if nigh on impossible, and even if we were only dropping from a stationary delivery ship, they would at least need the ability to slow down, or else everyone in the pod would die on impact. This might be a bad thing for the whole design as far as pure functionality goes, because at the moment the combination of a universal speed limit, the almost never-ending fuel supply that is uranium, the limited scope of the world, as well as the universally sized and powered thrusters, means, you might as well just hop in the pod and fly all the way to the target in that. But in any case, there's nothing stopping us from imagining, so we'll just assume that a delivery ship is required. At the very least, it will be able to house some med bays and store the equipment required for your invasion. Now, down here is my pod design. I'm not entirely happy with it, but it seems to work for the moment. There is one door on top, which is where it will be docked to the ship with the merge box just beside it. So you will fall down into the pod, hopefully not taking any fall damage. Just let me switch over to the non-spectator mode so I can use these doors. Yes, so this is the top door. You would fall down into here. So on the other side there are 2 other exit doors that allow the troops to run out. Keep in mind that this pod is probably going to be heavily damaged. Not that we really care about that, so long as we hit our target without killing everyone on board, so we shouldn't need anything like landing gear. As you saw before, there were thrusters pointing in every direction. We have to be very careful with them, and the person who is piloting the pods needs to know the processes so they don't end up burning holes in the delivery ship. Inside here you can see the artificial masses, which are used to quickly jettison the pod away from the ship, but the pod pilot will also need to turn them off as soon as they aren't needed, or else, if your target has a gravity generator, you'll either end up hurtling at it with great speed, or you'll have a giant yo-yo on your hands. Then there's all the cockpits in here, which is where the people will be sitting, a gyroscope and a small reactor. I thought about having a conveyor system to pipe in uranium for that, but it turned out to be too big, so I scrapped it instead. Fuel will have to be loaded into there manually. Not that, you'll need any more than a smidgen for the tiny distance this thing will travel. So that's the pod. If you have any ideas on improving it, let me know. It's quite tricky to get this pod into the delivery ship up here. You can see those 4 there, because it's quite a tight squeeze, but these pods will probably be disposable, so the only time you'll be loading them is in the safety of your own base. These 2 big things out the back are doors. This is the large, heavy version, more for all-out war, and I wanted to be able to protect the pods, so those doors swing all the way around and lock into place below the pods, so the pods are actually inside the ship. It's not the best looking of systems, but this entire ship isn't that great in the aesthetics department, so I don't really mind. It's also good that they slick back out of the way, as this ship will probably be flying directly at the threat, and as such the front will be the part that's taking a beating, so the vulnerable doors best be kept out of the road when not needed. I'll show you them in action at the end. I'm not going to go through all the minutiae, as that'll take too long. I'll show you in more detail little bits and pieces throughout the following videos, but if you want to take a proper look for yourself, each stage of this build will be on the Steam Workshop as usual. So if you want to take what I've done here and maybe even finish it yourself with your own ideas, feel free to. We can then enter the ship through the side door, and in here you can see another entry into the side of the pods through this walkway. You can see the outline of the pods there. This bit is a corner piece, so since we're using a merge block, we don't want to use a full piece along there, or else it will connect the 2 ships and they won't be able to separate. If I can get back up onto this walkway here, be able to go into the back of the ship, which is where most of the workings are. So there's the storage, which is up above, up in there, and the single large reactor. I've also dotted, med bays, like you can see up in here, and there's gyroscopes everywhere all around the ship. Now, this is not a very fail-safe system, but remember this heavy ship is a single-purpose full-frontal attack ship. Most of the damage will be inflicted on the front, and this ship ultimately only has to last long enough to jettison the pods. Although, ideally, you would want to get through unscathed. I don't think this design needs to be incredibly reinforced or have backup systems. It'd just be a waste of materials, less maneuverable, and a bigger target to hit. So those stairs there bring us up to the main area of the ship, which is incomplete. Only a few necessary things here and there. They probably, these things won't stay here. For the final design, there's a cargo container. Oh, whoops. Well, that's how you get into a pod. Let me just get back up again. So I don't think this ship will be passing any health and safety tests, but anyway, as I was saying, over here is a cargo container. It allows you access to the main storage, so the paratroopers, should I say pod troopers, can get kitted up and then file in through those access tunnels into their pods, like you saw me fall into before, ready for their deployment. There will also be cockpit controls around here somewhere. There probably won't be a big, specific, fancy bridge, but things dotted around the place. I would also like for there to be some decoy system for this ship, but I'm not sure the best way to set one up. I would rather the turrets on the, say, target station to be aiming at either decoys or this delivery ship, rather than the more vulnerable pods. Also, ideally, this would have at least 2 people manning the delivery ship itself, not counting the people in the pods. So one will be the pilot and one will do everything in the control panel, as doing both at once will be a bit fiddly, so everyone will need to work as a team. If this design works, which isn't necessarily going to be the case, I'm building this as I upload them, so there's no guarantee that this won't fail miserably, but if it does work, then I'll put together a small crew to test it out in a practice scenario. It would take a well-trained team to operate a ship like this, and there would be processes in place to make sure everything succeeded. You want everyone knowing exactly what they need to do, or else you could end up destroying everything. The processes for this aren't really refined yet, so the groupings in the control panel, for example, are all over the place, but I'll fix that up at a later stage and then upload it. So I'll now show you what I have so far in action. I won't be aiming at anything, this is just an empty world. I'll copy it over into another world with SE Toolbox when it's more ready, but with this world you'll at least get the idea. You'll notice when I'm in the control panel that everything is quite fiddly. It's not optimized and refined yet, and also damage to both this ship and the pods incur when moving. I don't expect this particular ship to launch a pod without taking at least some damage, but I would like to reduce it from what you'll see in a second. Anyway, shut up, Boris, let's do this. I'll launch the first pod from a standstill right here. So we take the reins and then we go into the control panel. The pods are numbered from 1 at the front left, 2 at the front right, 3 at the back left, 4 at the back right. So we'll launch pod 1 now. Don't pay attention too much to what I do in the control panel just yet. As I said, it's not that great at the moment. So we turn on the power to pod 1, and we'll just turn off the artificial masses and the thrusters for the moment. Now when we switch the masses back on, it will pull down on the ship, but we'll release it quickly. Once this system is refined, I'll have someone else to pilot the pod whilst I do this, so it'll be better. So we go, just make sure everything's right. So masses on, the ship starts to go down, and release, and away we go. And it will fall off into nothingness forever, and we see an empty bay there. Look at that damage just on the right hand side of the screen there, and at the top. I want to be able to reduce that, but with this heavy design, with the smaller design which you can see in the background over there, releasing without damage is easy, but I want this nice big heavy design that encompasses the pods. And then after it's released, obviously the people piloting that pod would switch on their thrusters, switch off the mass blocks, and aim for their target. Again, it would be best if at least 2 people were doing that, as it would all be happening quite quickly. So let's go again, except at speed, and we'll release one pod after the other. We're flying at about 30 meters a second now with our dampeners off, and you can see what this stout and bulky ship looks like with the doors closed. I'll open the doors now so we're prepped for launch. Just here, and away they go. I'm going to drop pod 2, which is on the left of screen there. So the camera into a better position, and I'll do the control panel thing. So we're doing number 2. Whoops, that was the wrong way around. On, we'll just switch this off. As I said, don't pay attention to this, it's not very good at the moment. And then we go on, release, off, and away it goes. You can see a bit of damage there. The pod itself, it looks alright. There might actually be less damage here than when we released from a standstill, which is interesting, but it's good to know that we can release, and that went straight down. Remember, we are going at, oops, just alt-tabbed there. We are going at about 30 meters a second at the moment, so that was quite nice. Let's ramp it up and go faster. We're now at 90 meters a second. It would probably be impossible to hit a target at this speed, but we'll test it anyway. So pod 3 away. There it goes. Looked fairly clean. A bit of damage on that pod there. I don't know if you'll be able to show it at the definition that'll come up on YouTube. Yeah, about the same amount of damage. That looked alright, especially 90 meters a second. So with this last one, I'll try and it's going to be a bit tricky. I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but I'll try and do a few maneuvers whilst launching. I'm trying to make this one fail to see what the limits of this are. Okay, so here we go. I'll try and move just as we release. So on and release, and away we go. Oh, that didn't work quite as planned. I didn't think I'd be able to get it in time, but I think there was a little bit more damage on that one. Yeah, but overall that's still workable, and those pods were still in working order. So I think that's a pretty decent proof of concept test at least. So I'll keep refining this build, and if I have time and you guys seem to like this idea, I'll continue making that other small lightweight ship I sort of pointed at before. That one will drop only one pod, but more accurately. I'll also be incorporating any ideas you have, so please leave them below, or indeed get this off the workshop and build them for yourself. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.